Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire podcast. Welcome back to a new episode. Please visit spiritualinspire.ca if you want to support the channel, leave a comment, and like the video. My guest today is Karen Docherty. Karen, thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a while since we tried to schedule this interview. The universe didn't want us to make like a month and a half ago, but finally we are face to face. And I will start by asking you something which stuck in my mind since I read about you. So in the Sixth Sense movie, the child says, "I see dead people." You also
Mhm.
say that one of your earliest childhood memories is seeing spirit people without actually realizing they were spirit people. Is that a good comparison?
It is a good comparison, actually. And that film, I feel, really was very accurate in the way that children might see spirit, albeit, was obviously dramatized and there was things in it that came across a little bit frightening for the child because they didn't know what was going on. But for myself as a child, I definitely seen spirit in that way. And it wasn't always like I seen them like they were physical. Sometimes I would just see parts. Sometimes I would see like apparition. Other times it would be feelings and things like that. So it was all different ways. But yeah, for sure, that is the way that it felt for me, that there were like people from somewhere else. And it never frightened me at any point, but it did make me aware that there was somewhere else.
And was this sensation and feeling and realization, especially around your house when you're visiting other people and places as well?
Yeah, both. It would be in my own home. It would be specifically my grandmother's home. I used to see a lot of spirit there, but my grandmother was very open about that. So she just used to say, oh, don't worry about it. They'll never harm you. And it made it feel easy for me to kind of communicate that to her. So I did used to kind of relax in her home so I would see more. But even in, outdoor places and, parks and other places, sometimes I would become aware that there were spirit people there.
And because you mentioned your grandmother, Elizabeth, I assume that she was a psychic as well.
She was very mediumistic, but she didn't do it, as a profession. She wouldn't have called herself that, but she was, like she used to read tea leaves. I remember one of my youngest memories was watching her at her kitchen table reading tea leaves for people that came to see her. So, and I think it was more like friends and things that would come to see her. So she did always have that skill. And I think that's how it made it easy for her to see that I could have that too and that I had that as well. And it kind of made it easy for her to recognize. But her sister was a medium. Her sister would go out and work as a medium. And I found that out yet like years later. So it definitely is in the family. And it's actually her birthday today.
Hmm.
So she'll be here with us.
Yes. And something that really stuck in my mind is that if I visit certain sacred places like Machu Picchu or the pyramids in Egypt, excuse me, or any other place which is loaded with history and events and death, I might be able to see something that happened there. So you travel the world a lot. Have you encountered this type of entities when you visit sacred sites, and how it is for you? Can you um, push them off, or can you help them with the transition if they ask for help?
Well, that's a subject I hear of a lot. Now, there's two ways to look at this. And when you visit these sacred places, or maybe places that are very old and steeped in history, it's almost like there's an imprint of what happened there. So the imprint is like a recording in the ether. It's like it will keep playing all the time. But that doesn't mean that spirit are active there. Memory of what happened that's active, and the castles here in Scotland. So if I go to a castle, I might be able to see soldiers on horseback and things like this. It doesn't mean that that soldier is actually there. It just means that the imprint of what happened is there. So mediums do not have to help spirit transition over to the spirit side. The spirit side help that. You know, we are of the earth while we are here. So it's not that if you see these things or you feel these things, it's not like the spirit of that person is stuck there. It's just that the recording of what happened is there. So everyone can, is capable of feeling those things or seeing those things from time to time.
Interesting. Yes, and that's a very good assessment, that is just the imprint and not the spirit. I learned something new today. Thank you. And going back to your grandmother, Elizabeth, is there any story she mentioned to you that really made an impression?
She actually told me that her sister once invited her along to like a circle, what we call a circle here in Scotland, which is when people used to get together to sit for communication with the other side. And her sister actually started to go into like a trance-like state and spoke a foreign language. Her guides came through her and spoke a foreign language, and it all made sense. They translated it, it all made sense. And I remember, listening to that and just feeling so excited about that and feeling like I know that can happen. Like it just made sense to me, whereas other people that she was telling at the time were like, really? And they were questioning it. But for me, it just made complete sense that that's what happens.
Very interesting. And because you mentioned Scotland, I think everyone is aware of the Outlander movie and the book. And we know how Kate, moves through time through the stones. So how much truth? Because I think there is some truth there, but how much truth and how much you know about this type of phenomenon?
Well, a lot of people speak about time travelers and, people that can move from one realm to the other. Now, for me personally, things have to be evidential. So even within mediumship, if a medium is coming to give you communication, it has to be evidential. There has to be facts in there that you can verify. With the time travel side of things, I've not really seen factual evidence of that as such. I'm sure it exists, but I haven't seen it. So I don't know. I feel like I can probably say that when I do astral travel, which is more when the soul leaves the body, when we go to sleep, the soul leaves the body, and I'm very aware of where I am in most of that. So I remember one time knowing that I was in Alaska. Now, I've never been in Alaska, so I wouldn't know that specifically as a human person, but I knew I was in Alaska. I knew that there were, the people that lived there. I knew by the sights and the trees that I was there, and I didn't know how I knew that. So I can liken it to that, just traveling of the soul makes sense to me. So perhaps that's what Outlander's based on too.
Yes, indeed. It's fascinating, and especially if we are aware when we are doing this type of traveling, and it's pretty much like lucid dreaming. And we can observe all the details, the smells, the colors, and we come back with much more experience and much more enriched.
Definitely. And it's an experience that you never forget. It doesn't feel earthly. It doesn't feel like it was done in a physical body. You know that it's a different realm, and it's truly amazing.
So to you, is this statement real? Because some people say that we are in a dream state when we are in this particular existence, and when we astral travel, that's the reality. When we transition and we see the other realm, is that the same for you?
It is, because we come from the spirit side of things. We come from spirit. That's where our home is. And so when we come here to the earth and we are, the physical body is there, the soul goes into that physical body, and we live this life to evolve, to learn, to experience it. And then when the body dies, the soul goes home to the spiritual realms. And then we know that that's always been our home. It's just while we are here, it's much like a dream state. It's much like when you go to bed and dream, when you wake up in the morning, you think, well, it wasn't real, it was just a dream. So that's what it will feel like when we go home. It will feel like life was just a little bit of a dream, even though we did experience it. So I can see where that, that comes from.
Yes, indeed. We are here just to find out how to work and pay the bills, pretty much, and forget about anything else. At least this is what some people want us to believe.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
love, and experience love and experience it. For me, it's like learning to separate yourself from the human side. So yes, we work, we pay bills, we do all the mundane things in life, but it's more about embracing the side that isn't about that, the love side, the reconnecting to your higher self, understanding that you're a powerful spirit. That's your true awakening to who you really are.
Yes, and in fact, I did a meditation last night, and it was all about love, that we are love and we have to encapsulate everyone else within our um, field of love that is generated by the heart. So it's for some people it is inconceivable to live from a place of love, and we have to be used to do that and learn
Yeah.
or teach others to do that.
Yeah, and it's hard because we all have a different life experience, and some people are born into or raised in an environment that isn't love and isn't healthy, and they have to learn right from scratch, how to love, and that's difficult if you've never received it. So there are lots of environmental factors that dictate how someone can develop in essence. It's really I mean, I feel very blessed that I know what it's all about and that I, developed that and worked with that. And I love helping other people to do the same. But I'm well aware that there's people that might never really believe that they are that true power of themselves. And that's down to what they've experienced in life.
Yes, indeed. And it's based on their karma, their lessons they have to learn, and potentially come back to learn more if they don't achieve what they're supposed to achieve in this lifetime.
Hmm. Yeah. The thing is that, and then you're going into about reincarnation and carrying things forward. But again, reincarnation isn't exactly the way I think that most people view it, because we are spirit, and that spirit is almost like a diamond where there's different facets of that diamond, and it's the emanation from each facet of that diamond that can incarnate here. And so if Karen lives her life here and I live out the best life that I know how to do and do my development or not, when I go back home to spirit, I don't have a chance to come back again as Karen because Karen has already been here. But an emanation of a different side to my spirit might come. And it's almost like you can complete the diamond, you can polish that diamond through different life experiences that's connected all to one spirit.
Yes, beautiful comparison. Thank you for that. And Karen, most of my guests, when they figure out in their childhood that they have different capabilities, like yourself, the family or the environment didn't take them seriously, and they laugh at them, and they had to push down all this connection with spirit. And only later in life they were able to overpass and overcome the fear. How was for you to accept your psychic capabilities and use them publicly?
It took a long time actually, because even though my grandmother kind of made comments here and there, and so I knew, that it was fine, I didn't really talk about it all that often to my parents or sisters. It was more like they used to see me like a bit strange, that my mum used to always say to me, I don't know where we got you from. You're not like your sisters. But they weren't able to put their finger on what it was. And all through my teenage years as well, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I was a medium. I just felt like, well, I can see things, but I didn't realize that that was part of who I am. So it was later in life that I was able to kind of start saying, I'm going to go and see about this, or I'm going to develop this because this is part of me. And when I accepted that part of me, I was able to relax. And then I was confident enough to tell people, yes, I'm a medium. But it did take time, even with my own dad. I remember saying to him, I'm going to this development group and this is what I'm doing. And I think at that point, my dad felt like, oh, maybe it's a little hobby or, something extra that she was doing. But he soon realized when I really started to tell him my experience and then started to read for people and things. And he was quite amazed by it and said, well, we always knew there was something, but we didn't know what it was. So once that had happened, then I was able to just relax and, live my life and say, this is who I am.
Yes, at least you are not in danger of being burned at stake. That's amazing.
No, thank goodness for that. I'm sure so many were. And it's a very natural ability. It's something that you're born with. It's not something that you choose to do. It's something that you're born with.
Yes, and we've seen a lot of that in the last 3 to 4 years. Have your work intensified in the same time period when people come to you to connect with the dear ones who left this earth, this plane?
I think that there's a lot more, obviously, with social media and things like that, there's a lot more people out there saying they're psychics and mediums. And I think it works twofold. I think on one way it works negatively because there are people saying that they're doing it and they're not. So it's not evidential. So then it does damage. And then there's mediums out there that are able to spread the word and use the platforms that they need to show genuine mediumship. So I think it works both ways. But for me, I mean, I've been doing this a long time now, and for me, it's remained the same. People have always been really desperate to connect with their loved ones and understand. I will say that lately, probably more and more people are aware of it because of the social media, because it's out there and people talk about it openly now. Whereas maybe 15, 20 years ago, they weren't as open about it as they are now.
And because you mentioned social media and everything else, have you had the curiosity to ask Spirit what caused the death and the pandemic and everything that happened all around the world?
I mean, I think everyone has their own feelings on it, and I'm always careful because obviously I'll have my feelings on it as a human being as well as, a medium. But really, I feel it's all more, a lot of it comes down to human error. Like, I really do feel that when illness is there or things happen like disasters and things like that, I don't feel any of that comes from spirit. I feel that that's things that either happen as a result of how we live and what's going on environmentally, or if it's illness and such like, I feel that could be anything down to what we eat, how we live in that sense, and the way things are done. So for me, none of that really comes from the other world, a
Mhm.
higher realm. I feel like that this is where we are. We live in a human world and we have to then persevere with things that happen because of that and get our way through that too. I mean, spirit are always there and the support is always there, but they can't change things for humans. We're meant to be able to have our own free will.
Yes, I agree with that, and I heard it many times. Um, and that's why they are there to protect us, maybe individually, not as a species at this point. And we have our own say on how we want to evolve or de-evolve, based on, as we said, free spirit, free will. Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying that if spirit could take things away like illness, they would take away cancers, they would take away things that, people die of, and they can't do it. It's just not what they're there to do. We're meant to come here, have this human experience, and whatever happens, we all go back home. So they know that we are all safe at the end of the day, but it's just an experience that we have to have.
Yes. Yeah. We are eternal. We don't die. It's just the avatar who perishes and will come back if necessary. If not, we'll get a job on a different plane, different planet.
Yes, exactly.
Kieran, I know you are doing your best to teach others how to do the work you do. How many people, or let's say you have someone who comes to you and asks you to connect them with the dear ones who left. How many times these people are enticed and interested to continue this work and learn how to do it themselves and teach others as well?
Well, I think if someone comes to me with an interest in that side of it because they feel like they have psychic skill, or they feel their intuition is very high and they're interested in that self-development side of things, I will always help them to develop that side of things, as well as the mediumship. If someone comes to me and they feel that they're communicating with spirit, then I will definitely help and mentor someone that I feel has a genuine connection. But not everyone can do it. And I think there's a misconception. So everyone is psychic. We are all psychic because we come from the spirit side of life, where it's a world of thought and we communicate by thought in that world. So when we come here, we can still do that. We can still have that sixth sense. But when we go to school, our five senses are developed and the sixth sense just gets, shelved, it gets lost. Now, some people will hang on to their sixth sense, their psychic ability, to a strong degree and possibly become psychics. Other people will be able to develop it so that they can better it for themselves, making their own decisions, knowing where they're going in their life, that kind of thing. So every one of us can do that. Mediumship, you are born to be a medium. So not everyone, not even every psychic can communicate with spirit. There's a difference in both sets of skills. So when you're a medium, you need to have been born with that. That has to come natural to you so that then you can enhance and develop that. So every medium you speak to will be psychic too, because that's what comes first. But every psychic isn't a medium, and they're both just as valuable. Like, I think people think mediumship's more valuable than psychic. It's not. Like, they're both very skilled positions to be in.
Yes, and you mentioned signs. So let's say if I see 1111 and 911 on a daily basis, what type of communication spirit wants to give me? How should I interpret this sign?
So there are a lot of there's a lot of information about angel numbers and these kind of things, and number sequences, and numerology is very, very good as well. And spirit will influence you to look at things at a certain time. So if you keep seeing 1111 every day or every other day, usually spirit are influencing that so that you will look up the message that comes with that. And these kind of general messages are out there, and for everyone to kind of research if they want to. And that might be what you need to hear right at that point. So spirit will give you signs and try to just let you know that they are there and that they are supporting you in whatever you do, maybe what's for you on your next steps of your path. So it is an influence from spirit when you start to pick up on signs like that.
And what are the signs should we look for? Let's say if someone close to us who passed away um, wants to give us, I mean, what should we look for?
Signs like maybe a piece of music that you would associate with them. Maybe you're thinking of them, the radio comes on with a certain type of music. Smells, scents of aftershave or cologne or perfume, or just a scent that you would associate with that loved one. Presence is a big one because people tend to throw it away. They might say, oh, I felt like my dad was there, but I can't prove it, so it means it didn't happen. Where I would always say, just believe. If you feel in that moment that your loved one is with you, then that's true. Because signs are very subtle from the spirit side. They're not big and bold. If they were big and bold, none of us would need to look for evidence. So they're very subtle signs. Birds, butterflies, all of these things can mean that the spirit world are influencing your thoughts to pick up on these things around you, because they know that you will associate that with them.
Indeed. So again, we have to be aware pretty much all the time of our surroundings and what's going on with us in order to pick up these signs.
Yeah, I think, I would say to people, don't overthink it either, though, because I think sometimes we can look for things too hard. And then it means that everything we're looking at, we're going to scrutinize. And was it that? Was it this? And I think just sometimes just take a deep breath, relax. If you want your loved one to come around and show you something, ask them for that sign, but don't expect it to turn up within an hour. It might be 3 weeks later that something happens, because the spirit world can't just like perform on demand. It doesn't work like that. They need time to influence things. They need time to manipulate energy to make the change. So just put the thought out there, take a deep breath, leave it with them, and they will turn up and show you.
Yes, I think they are not efficient enough. We want them to act right away, you know?
Yes, exactly. And this is the world we're in. You know, we get everything express now. You know, we don't need to wait on anything. If we want to order something, it's delivered the next day or same day. And I just think that our mentality is that way as a human now, like we want it right now. And it just can't work that way with spirit because it's a different realm. It's not physical. You know, they work at a different vibrational speed than we do. So things have to kind of be manipulated a little bit and changed in order for those things to be brought to us.
Yeah, I think spirit has to look for new management to improve these processes.
Yes, exactly.
Karen, you say that mediumship is about healing. Can you please expand on that?
Yeah, mediumship by definition is to heal. It's to heal people. And I always say that it's about both sides because if I have a father that comes forward to talk to his daughter, then I know the healing will take place between the father and the daughter. So it might be that the father is relieved to have communicated, and then that makes him in the spirit side feel more settled because he has had that communication. And the daughter needed the communication to understand that her father didn't really die, he's just moved on to the spiritual realm. So it brings healing to her and it facilitates that healing in her life. And that's really what it's all about. It's about making someone feel a connection, making someone feel that this is true, and really allowing them that space to understand what's taken place, just to promote that healing within them, within their grief state, or even if it's people coming for a psychic reading, which is more about their own life, they might be a bit lost or they need guidance on something, and they should leave you feeling a lot better and a lot more empowered and understanding of what they need to do to help themselves too. And that in turn brings healing too. So it really is all under the same umbrella of healing.
Yes, and from at the personal level, I think this type of healing is more important for a mother or a father or parents who lost a child, because we always say it's cruel for a child to die before his or her parents. And that's why I think personally that the parents should understand what happened to the soul of and the spirit of their child and have the acknowledgement that they are alive, that the child is alive, but not in a physical form anymore. And that
Yeah.
healing will make them go through the remaining of their life with peace in their hearts.
Absolutely. And I've always said that the most difficult things that I found at the start of my mediumship was working with families that had lost children. Because for me, I used to feel, you know, how can I sit and do that and make that communication and then come home to my children and they were okay? And, you know, I used to feel terrible guilt and really overwhelmed with the emotion of all of that. And obviously through time, I learned to just understand that there was nothing I could do to help that side of it, but I would do everything in my power to help the other side of it. And that is what I've always strived to do with parents who are grieving, because it is really the one, you know, side of death that we shouldn't really have to experience as parents. So that's difficult to heal that, but you can help them within their grief and you can help them understand that their son or daughter is still here, you know, and that in itself gives them great comfort.
Yes, because a lot of marriages got disintegrated after such a loss. The parents, the parties couldn't come together and overcome the grief and the loss. And they decide to just move apart and build different lives on their own. So that's
Mhm.
sad because it's not that only the child kept them together, but they met each other before the child came in their life. So they should be
Mhm.
able to continue that relationship, even if in a different on a different terms with much more maturity.
The thing is, grief is so personal, isn't it? It's so, everyone deals with grief differently. And even in a family, I mean, I know when my mum passed away 8 years ago, I dealt with the grief very differently to both of my sisters. And we all came together in the grief. We were lucky that we had that support for one another, but we were all very different and we were all very affected in a different way. So grief is very personal, and particularly when it's about children. It's sometimes hard for people to come together on it, and it is very sad. It really is. But hopefully at some point, both of the parents, whether they're together or not, do find that place of peace and understanding that their child is okay.
Yes. And are you seeing any psychic or mediumship capabilities in your children?
I do. My eldest son, he's 29. He actually works with his psychic ability. He does it more along the lines of soul coaching, which is to help heal and empower and develop. He does a lot of development programs to help people discover their own psychic abilities. And I actually work in collaboration with him on certain programs. So he's working with his every day. My daughter, who's 24, she doesn't want to know anything about it. She loves what I do, and she's like, but don't tell me, it's just not for her, even though I do see that she is psychic. And then my youngest, he's 17 years old, and he definitely is psychic. He will come in and say things just a minute later that I was thinking, or vice versa, and we're always kind of tuning in. So he definitely has that too, and I don't know whether he will use it. He wants to be a film director, so probably not.
Yes, but no, being a film director and having these capabilities, he'll be able to read minds and look
Yes, he
at the
will.
direction of the company, and he
He
will be
will.
very successful in that position. Yeah.
Well, again, if you think about anyone who has that kind of, in fact, I know a client I speak with quite often, and he is nearly 90 years old, and he built his own business. He's self-made, and it was all through his psychic abilities, because he was able to tune into people, know how to work his business, know how to change things. And so he's definitely used his level of skill. So yeah, maybe my son will do the same when it comes to his movie and film direction.
Mhm. Yeah, I like these capabilities early in my life, in order to become successful in business. So I think I'm gonna stick to this side of my personality, helping people to waking up to their potential by bringing forward individuals like yourself and all the other guests, and by organizing summits and exposing them to the wealth of knowledge we have as a civilization. And yeah, we have to really, really awaken our potential.
For sure. And I think if more and more people can realize that, it changes their life. It really does change your whole life when you tap into it. And I always say to my students when they come to me, I always say the biggest thing you're going to get out of this is your personal development. It's not even your mediumship or your psychic. That will be quite natural, but your personal development, the way that you view life when you understand who you truly are, will change, and it will change your whole outlook in life. And that really is an amazing thing.
Yes, I mean, we have to understand that we are changing daily if we take the step to even read one page in a book, or do a meditation, or do some breath work. We are changing. But if we just walking out in the backyard and talking to the plants. But if we just go
Mhm.
to the job and come back and listen to the same music and do nothing else and just watch TV, that's stalemate, is not advancement, is not evolution. So this is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be that we have to look at it in a bigger way, and kind of staying stagnant in life isn't what we're supposed to do. It's always meant to be about further development and understanding. And it's not that everyone's going to jump onto the spiritual bandwagon, and maybe, there are people out there that maybe don't believe, or maybe they don't know, or maybe it's just not for them, and that's fine too, but they will still be learning within their own life. But the one thing that I always say, again, to students and for myself when I started was, once you are awake, you can never go back to sleep. Once you understand, you can never go back to sleep. So you have to be prepared for that.
Yes, like others say, as soon as you've seen it, you cannot unseen it.
You
It's there
can't
in your
unsee it.
memory. Yes.
Mhm.
Karen, what type of spirit guide team do you work with?
Obviously every spirit team can vary, like we all have a team, so we all have numerous guides that work with us. There's usually one main guide or maybe two main guides that will come in more, and I certainly have, I would say, maybe 5 or 6 that I'm more aware of. Two main ones that work with me often. I mean, I sit also for trance mediumship as well. So when I'm doing my trance work, my guides come in and talk and, speak with the people that are in the room. So I'm aware of my guides, but one thing I would always say to people is don't worry if you don't know them yet, because you will. They will introduce themselves when they want to do it. It's not that we have to go looking for that. It's just that we have to create the space and hold the space for it to happen when it's supposed to. And that's what I did right at the beginning. I didn't want to particularly had to know who my guides were. It was just that I would go into meditation, hold the space for them, and eventually, they started to come in and tell me things about themselves, things that I could research, that were viable to research, which would give me the evidence that I wasn't imagining it. And then it went from there. And now, obviously, you build a relationship with your guides then. So I speak to my guides most days by name. But I know there are many more there that are waiting to work that I don't know yet. Because it's like being at school, you have in the first year, you have a first year teacher. And then later on in school, you have, a seventh grade teacher or whatever. So your guides will come and go dependent on what you need at your stage of development in life.
They are very interesting analogy. And have you confirmed with them that this type of work you've done on previous lives as well?
No, I haven't really gone down that route with myself. I'm not really, it's not that I don't want to know. It's just that I feel, well, I'm here to embrace this life and live this incarnation. I have been given information from my guides through meditation and through trance sessions, what I done before and where I was before, and I have all of that information, and it resonates within me, so I know it's true. But it's not something I actively go looking for. If they tell me, then I'm happy to, obviously look at it, but it's not something that I look for.
Interesting. And we mentioned about mediumship as healing. So when you do a session, do you also identify an illness and let that person about it?
I can identify illness or I can identify health issues, but mediums are not doctors, and we are not really supposed to diagnose or give that to someone. So I would only really comment on someone's health if they already knew they had a health condition. So if someone came to me and I knew that they knew, like if I said to them, for instance, I know that you're visiting the hospital, regularly, or I know that you've been looking at doctors and tests and things like that, and they say, yes, I know this, then I would only touch upon the information that they already knew, because it's not for me to diagnose someone, because mediums can get things wrong, and we'll have to remember that. It would be terrible if a medium said to someone they had a certain health condition and it wasn't there. It puts people in fear, and when people come to us, it's more about empowering them and letting them leave with a better mind space. But I can do it, and I have done it, and I know that. I remember a lady coming to me and I knew instantly that she had breast cancer. I picked up on it straight away. I could see it. And I kind of got around the issue by asking her, are you seeing a doctor at the moment? And she said yes, and she disclosed that she'd had tests. I didn't tell her that I felt it was breast cancer. I said to her, well, keep strong, the spirit are behind you, they're supportive of you, they want you to be okay. So just keep going, because I knew that really that might not be the way it would go. So I didn't want to let this lady leave me feeling deflated or worried or in fear. That would have been the wrong thing to do. So although mediums can pick up on it, you don't disclose that to someone unless you have complete proof that it's
Yeah,
there.
very interesting point of view. And it's also maybe a liability issue on your side. And yeah.
It's liability, but it's ethics. Any professional medium should know these ethics and morals. There shouldn't be anyone that doesn't think that way, in my view, because really you're dealing with people's lives, and people come to you when they're already fragile, whether it's looking for guidance, whether they've lost someone, they're already in a fragile mindset, fragile heart. So the last thing a medium should do is add to that and give them more fear. Just morally, it's wrong.
Yes, indeed. Karen, I'd like to go more into the programs you offer, please.
Yeah, so I do mentorship, and the reason I do mentorship is because when I started, I felt like it was quite a lonely path. I didn't really have a medium to ask questions of all the time, or someone that I can just pick the phone up or email. So although I did have teachers around the world at different times, I didn't really have that on-call person. So I knew that when a certain time came for me, I would want to offer mentorship to people so that it's a very one-to-one lesson. It's where I have people coming in and I see what they need, because every medium is unique and all of our needs are unique to us. So I didn't want to do like one size fits all. I didn't want to put it out that way. So my mentorship means that you can come to me and be taught one-to-one by me, and my materials, my take on things, the way that I share things, and I will help people progress through psychic to mediumship. And I also work in collaboration with my son, Yin Yang Soul, where he does the psychic side of things and the soul side of things, the soul development, which works hand in hand with then developing your psychic and your mediumship further on. So we do a program together, which is proving to be very successful too.
Yeah, beautiful to be able to work with your son.
You know, it's amazing actually, and sometimes I sit and think about it and think from when he was really young to now, and he always, his name's Lewis, and he always showed signs of seeing spirit from a young age. He would tell me, oh, there's a policeman in my room, or there was someone in my room last night, and he always used to see things. So I always knew that he would, but obviously he went through his life path first and where he wanted to go, and then kind of came back round to it again. And now that we work together, you know, it's amazing. It leaves me feeling like, you know, I knew he would do this work and it's good work, and he does it from a moral place and an ethical place like I do. So he's learned those values along the way because of my path as well.
And that's very nice. And something came to my mind right now because it's kind of a summary of everything we discuss about the energetic imprint of a person on a historic site. And Scotland went through so much turmoil in 14th, 15th, 16th century. Have you had the curiosity to inquire if the land still needs healing?
Personally, I haven't, only because I think with my mediumship, I'm more in the way of just working with people and helping people and heal people. I am a big believer in spirit take care of things they need to take care of. So if there's healing needed in certain places like land and things like that, I just feel that that's from a spiritual realm. There's no human that can heal that. Like we are human and we live in a human world. Now, although we might have mediumistic qualities and abilities, really it's like what I said to you earlier about people saying that, you know, mediums can help someone go into the light. Well, that doesn't sit with me either, because why would spirit not help them? Like, they're in spirit. So as soon as we cross over, there's not this, you know, there's not this place that we go to where we can get stuck. We go right to spirit. Spirit people might feel certain, you know, if someone passed quickly or traumatically, yes, they will need to understand, you know, like this, there's a lot of emotion connected with anyone that passes, but certainly situations like that, but they're never stuck. And it doesn't really make sense to me that, you know, 5 humans can sit in a room as mediums and say, we're going to send them into the light. That just doesn't make sense to me. The spirit world will help them with that. What we are here to do as mediums is help the people here to bridge the two worlds, to bring the communication forward so they have proof of life after physical death. And it's the same with the bigger things like the land and places that need healing. I feel like the spirit world take care of that.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. Karen, what would you consider an accomplished life?
An accomplished life for me just means coming to a realization of what life truly is. And that is not possessions, it's not things, it's not money, it's not any of that. We need that. We need money to live in a material world. We need possessions to live in a material world. So that's not a bad thing, but that's not what life is. Life, accomplished life means being in a place where you're completely content and at peace with your inner voice, you know, your inner soul. For me, that's what an accomplished life is. If that's what I can accomplish in this life, then I'm more than happy with what I've accomplished. And it wouldn't matter if I had £10 or £1,000,000 at that point. So for me, the material things don't really matter. They only matter for survival needs. And that doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't be ambitious or have a great material life. You know, people should. If that's what they want, that's exactly what people should do. But the accomplishment comes when they can say, I've been a good person, I've worked hard, my intention has always been to be good and be good for other people and bring love. And that for me is accomplishment.
Beautiful lesson. Thank you. And as we are approaching the end of the interview, any final thoughts?
Really, I urge anyone listening to this to really be curious about their own spirituality. And it doesn't matter if you come from a religious background or no religion, or you don't know what spirituality is. Every one of us has spirit. We are all spirit. We have a higher self, and we can all link into that. And I would really encourage anyone to embrace that and have a look into it and see how they feel, because it really can change your life.
Perfect. Thank you very much for all the work you do, for your wise words, and thank you.
You're so welcome, and it's been a pleasure. I think I could talk about this all day long.
I know, but I want to also appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Visit spiritualinspired.ca, leave a comment, like the video, and until next time, love and gratitude.